Good evening. You're listening to Modern Mystic Radio on A1R Psychic Radio and Moonstruck TV. I trust you're having a great week so far, and we've got some fantastic shows lined up for you today. If you want to get hold of me outside of this, you can do on www.modern-mystic.co.uk, or of course you can get in touch with me on Facebook. My page is Modern Mystic. Also got another page called Mystic Sarah, where I do live free readings as well once a week. Okay, so I'm looking forward to taking my callers and tuning in to your issues and your problems, etc., etc. But before I do that, I'm just going to allow you to take a sneaky peek, if you like, into my life, a window into my world, as it were. So I'm going to talk briefly about my whole journey so far, both on a personal level and of course on a spiritual level as well. So really from day one, from an early age, I've been fascinated with anything to do with spirituality or anything to do with the unknown, and that's been with me since as far as I can remember. But my first real experience was when I was around 7 years old, and it was like something was just switched on for me, and what I could actually do was see spirit night after night after night, and it would come in the form of not somebody standing at the end of my bed or anything like that, but more in the sense of I would see faces, but not faces like you and I, but more like the outline of a face. And I would see hundreds of these things night after night, and they would literally come in, swoop in right up close, and then just go off to the side, and have another one that would just go off to the side. And I used to see this all the time. So I used to see it with my eyes open, with my eyes shut, and I used to be woken up in the middle of the night with this. So I tried everything. I tried asking my parents to leave the hall light on so I didn't have to see them, but it just got stronger and stronger and stronger. Now, there was no communication from these spirits at all, none whatsoever. I would just see the faces, and this carried on for months. I'm not quite sure exactly how long it carried on for, but this was when I had my first experience with my spiritual guides, and I saw them discussing me and saying that I needed help, and obviously this can't carry on. So they shut off that ability for me. And that was instant, and I haven't had them, all those faces, ever since. And that is one of the things that kind of amazed me. But as a child, you just forget about it, you just get on with life, etc. And then when I was about 13, I came across this book on how to read playing cards, and this is kind of how my interest really, got started in terms of doing readings. So I would do readings for friends and family using the playing cards. And when I was 17, I decided to have my first professional reading done on me. So I went to a psychic fair and met this lovely lady, and she did me a wonderful reading, and she said, you can do this, you could actually do this. And I thought, right, okay, can you teach me? Can you teach me how to read the cards? Because this is what she was using. And she said, yes, of course, I'll come over to your home. And I was expecting weeks and weeks and weeks of training, as you do. And all she did was shuffle the cards. And it was this pack of cards that we're talking about here, the Psi cards. And these are the ones that she actually gave to me all those years ago, so 27 years ago. Okay, so it's these. And she said, shuffled them, she said, you can already do it, do me a reading. And I thought, no, I can't, that's why I've asked you to come over. And she said, no, you definitely can, just do me a reading. So I did my first very rusty, very vague reading, and within a month of that she had me working alongside her at psychic fairs, and so I was very much thrown in at the deep end, and that really has been the theme of kind of the way in which spirit work with me. It's like, okay, you're going to do this and we're just going to chuck you straight in. No preparation, no build up or anything like that. So from 17, I started working at psychic events, psychic fairs, and also, doing private readings as well. So that was my introduction into the psychic world. So I carried on doing that, learning different tools as well, picked up the runes, picked up the runes a couple of years later and worked with them. And then I started teaching. So my spiritual development really grew quite significantly. And one of the most memorable experiences I had was actually when I was attending a development group myself. And I experienced what some people call, and what I refer to, as a God consciousness experience. And this was something that literally blew my mind completely. I wasn't intending to do this. It was pure, it just happened. So what I actually felt was my being actually expand and grow to the point of where I was encompassing absolutely everything. I could feel and sense the energy of everything. Now, this experience only lasted probably about 10-15 minutes. It wasn't that long, but it's the first and only time I've had the pleasure of being able to experience such an enormous feeling. So I had that sense of being in touch with everything, but actually physically being everything. But also there was this overtone of the energy of love surrounded by it as well. So it's a very, very powerful experience, but that's one of the most memorable ones in terms of spiritual development. And then after I started teaching, I met what I thought was the love of my life, and we decided to get together and start a family together. And I moved to Wales in the UK, and there I started my own psychic business, and that was going fantastically well. Again, sort of going off like a rocket. So I was doing a lot of psychic work in and around my family. So that was going well, but unfortunately the relationship wasn't. And at that point, I was also learning Reiki as well. So I'd done my Reiki 1 and my Reiki 2 healing. And when I did my Reiki Masters, that's when the relationship kind of collapsed. And I moved back home. I moved back in with my mother. And then got my own place from there on in. So my journey in that respect had been quite traumatic on the emotional front, and that, if you like, that trauma on the emotional front kind of carried on down the years. So I had a couple of relationships that were quite sort of damaging to me, quite difficult. And in the end, I actually moved in with my father. And so it was me, my father, and my children. So I had to, at that point, go out and get a job and work and join the real world. So I had to put my psychic work to one side. Now, it's always been in the background. So even if I had to go out to work or, had all my time taken up, I would still be offered certain things and keep the psychic work up and running. So there's never a chance of me completely turning my back on it. It would always come back in. And in 2007, my father passed away, and this was again a very, very unusual experience for me. I am highly sensitive anyway, but about 2 weeks before he passed away, and he was not, it was a sudden passing, there was no way of knowing as such, I was hit with this enormous sense of grief. And that's how I described it to a colleague at work. She asked me what was wrong. I said, I just feel like I'm in grief. I don't know what's wrong with me. And that lasted for a solid week, this feeling of grief. And my father was still alive at that time. There was nothing wrong with him. And then the week after that, this is where he passed away suddenly. So it's almost like I knew even though I hadn't physically, been told by spirit or what have you. I just got the energy of it, and it wasn't until afterwards that I could, actually clearly see why I was getting that. So when he passed away, it was the morning of his funeral. I had a really, really powerful experience. Again, it's not one that I was looking for or trying to achieve in any way, shape or form. And I woke up literally at a stupid o'clock. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I woke up and it was the dawn was beginning to break. So there's that funny sort of light around. And I woke up wide awake, and it was almost as though I could I could sense him there. He was definitely there. The presence was so strong. It was off the scale. It was like, if you've got your eyes closed and you've got somebody standing in the room next to you, you can feel them. You can literally feel them. You don't necessarily have to have your eyes open. But this is the sensation that I was getting. It was like I could reach out and physically touch him, even though I knew he was obviously not there. Now, he then proceeded to have a conversation with me, sort of mentally, sort of a telepathic communication. And this went on for quite some time, and I'll never forget this because this was quite beautiful. He showed me, it was like he was going through a photo album of me and the family when we were children. Almost like snapshots, but with those snapshots I had all of his emotions come forward in the sense of love and pride and all these different emotions. And he said to me, he said, Sarah, this is what I'm taking with me. These are the treasures that I'm taking with me into the spirit world, and I will never ever ever forget that. It was so touching. And so we carried on our conversation mentally, and then all of a sudden he said, I've got to go. I said, no, just a few more minutes, please, a few more minutes, just want to spend some time with you before you go. And he said, no, I have to go because somebody's going to call you. And I said, but it's 5:30 in the morning, nobody's going to call me at this time. And he said, you'll see. And off he went, and there was nothing I could do. I couldn't stop him. And within 2 minutes of that, the phone rang, and it was his sister, who I hadn't spoken to since I was about 4 years old. So I didn't even know how she had the number and stuff like that. So I was most surprised by that. Obviously burst into tears from my emotional experience with my father, but that was again something very, very special. Then on the morning of his funeral, there was a space in the house. Like I said, we shared the house with my dad anyway. There's a space in the house upstairs, and I could smell this perfume, and it was really strong. And it wasn't one that I recognised, and I couldn't quite place it, and I thought, well, maybe the kids have dropped something, went looking around, couldn't find anything, but it was really, really strong and very distinct, very, very distinct. And when we went to view the body before he was buried, to say our last goodbyes and give our respects, etc., that was the fragrance that was all around him. So somehow I was picking up on that fragrance from home, which again I thought was absolutely amazing. And since his passing, he's always come to me in my dreams. So if there's ever been an earth-shattering experience, he's always come forward within that state. So I kind of recognise, if I get a dream of my dad, normally there's something big that's going to happen to me. Normally it's quite traumatic for me, and it's like he kind of comes in to just give me the heads up there. So it's almost like I don't get constant communication from him, but when he does come in, it's normally there's a big message there for me. So after he passed away, I bought his house and carried on working. And this is where things started to go quite downhill for me. I was in quite a negative relationship. My jobs wouldn't work out, and it almost became a standing joke, you know, on what's going to happen this time. And it was literally job after job. Something would go wrong, the line management change, or I'd get made redundant, or something would happen. And I mean, fundamentally, it was because I'm supposed to be doing this. But taking that leap of faith as a single parent, which is what I was, with everything resting on my shoulders, no backup, no savings, no, you know, client base or anything like that. You know, I went through this over and over and over again, this constant job changing. And then what I found here is after I literally had enough, I thought, right, okay, I don't want to get another job. I want to do my psychic work. Give me a sign, please. Give me a sign. So what I got was a dream of being escorted from my present workplace and walking straight into a newly opened psychic shop or psychic business. So that was my first sign. So me being me said, okay, give me another sign, please. And all of a sudden I had loads of inquiries come through, literally 10 in 24 hours, which was phenomenal. So I decided to take that leap of faith, and it was absolutely terrifying, the most terrifying thing I've ever done, of not going for another job and deciding to devote myself to my psychic work wholeheartedly. That was the promise I gave to Spirit. Right, you've got my 100% attention now, you know. So what happened from that is I worked on a couple of phone lines and tried to build my business up. And within a couple of months of that, I was invited to work on UK TV as a psychic. So this is where my journey really began. So that was about 3 or 4 years ago. And again, it's kind of taken off like a rocket. But fundamentally, you know, that journey towards the point that I am now has been very hard, you know. So I will never forget that point of feeling, you know, when I said things were going downhill, of that knowledge that all of a sudden you know you're going under and there's nothing you can do about it. I will never forget that feeling. Now, if that's something that you can resonate with, you know, you have my absolutely 100% assurance that I know where you're coming from. Now, I have my first caller today, and this is Colleen from Springfield in Illinois. Hi, Colleen, are you there?
I'm fine, thank you very much.
Hi, how are you?
I am fine, thank you very much. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming through to me today. Do you have a question that you'd like me to look at?
Well, the only question I really have is in regards to my son, Joe. I just wanted to know that he was okay and everything is fine where he's at.
Okay. Is your son in spirit?
Joe passed away in 2011.
Okay, right, let's just have a look and see what I get here with this. I'm going to use the spirit message cards for this and see what I get here with him. So let me just get those out for you. Give those a bit of a shuffle as well. And let's just see what we have in terms of his energy. Just trying to tune into his energy as well. See, I do feel here that you pick up on his energy around you, not all the time, just moments, odd moments. You kind of get, it's almost like it just drifts past you. Does that make sense to you?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
What I'm saying here is I feel that you do already sense your son's spirit okay, with you.
Okay.
I am getting here almost like direct contact here that I feel that he does make towards you. I am also getting, with the cards, one of the ones that I absolutely love here, it's Hello from Heaven, okay? And I absolutely love this card, and this is telling you really to start looking out for signs that your son is still around you, because I feel like he is. I feel like even though I get the element of like trauma around his passing, like, how can I put it, this feels like a very unnatural passing. Does that make sense? It feels quite sudden. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. And I feel very much, it's almost like unresolved, unresolved issues around his passing, question marks I feel that you have around his passing.
I think he must have a very bad connection.
Sorry?
I think you must have a very bad connection, because I cannot understand a lot of what you are saying.
Right, okay. Can you hear me okay now? Hello?
No, I'm sorry. I'm still having a very hard time understanding what you are saying, because I think the connection is very bad.
Okay. Right. Are you able to hear me right now? Okay, so my producer's just said we're going to try and fix the connection issue. He's going to give you a quick ring back, and we'll try and continue with this. Okay? Right, so we're just going to wait for her to come back, and hopefully this time round we will have a better connection on the with the audio. So as I was saying, with my psychic and my personal journey, it has been very fraught with difficulties, and how can I put it? We're not, as a psychic, we're not immune, if you like, to everything that you kind of experience. We have to go through our own journey, and in that same way, we have to go in blind, just like everyone else. So, we will not be given the heads up of, oh, you need to stay away from this person, or you need to do this, or you need to do that. We've got to find this all out ourselves. So, never think that a psychic's got that insight on their life. Okay. So do we have Colleen back?
Yes, I'm here.
Ah, okay. Right, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Is that better?
Yes, it's so much better right now.
Ah, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so what I was saying in relation to your son is that I feel like you already pick up on his energy around you. Now, one of the cards that I have for you is it's called Hello from Heaven, and I absolutely love this card, because this is kind of telling you to take a moment and to look out for signs that your son is with you. Now, I did feel as well that he's in terms of the passing, I get question marks around it. It's like you've still got questions in terms of his passing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and what he's kind of saying to you now is that his energy is safe, and it's he's at peace, but he is asking you. It's not telling you, but he's asking you if you could now let that go, because the answers are not going to necessarily be forthcoming. I feel like there is an element of unfairness around this, unfairness, unjustness. I'm getting the word unjust around this, and I feel like there needs to be some sort of responsibility taken for his passing. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, and I feel like, how can I put it? What he's saying to me is that even though you cannot see that person needs to take responsibility, or how, you know, is how can I put it? You know, that they're not, how can I put, paying the price, or you know, getting what not what they deserve, but you know, having a bit of balance within the situation. What he's saying here is that will come in a different form. So he's saying to you, fear not. Okay, even though this is a particularly difficult experience, what he's saying to you is that he is with you every single step of the way, but he does want you now to rejoin. Okay, rejoin life. And I want to say here, he will be looking at that through your eyes. He will be with you every step of the way. That's what I get with his energy.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All
yes.
right.
Thank you so very much.
You're more than welcome. Now, it's nearly the time for my end of my show, so I'm going to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming through to me. So once again, if you want to get hold of me, my website's www.modern-mystic.co.uk, or you can find me on Mystic Sarah Facebook page, or Modern Mystic Facebook page as well. So I will see you the same time next week. I'm going to wish you lots of love and light, and stay tuned for many, many other wonderful shows coming up. Love and light to you all.